So while they're walking back, I printed this out, and I just wanted to read this to you because I thought it was cool. It says, boost your immune system with these 8 simple steps. Some may surprise you. You ready? Okay, here we go. Number 1 is nutrition. Yeah, we kind of thought that, right? You eat right, you live right. Number 2, exercise. Seems good to me. Number 3, water. Okay, so far. Number 4 is sunlight. Yeah, that'd be good. Pastor, we got to move the church to Arizona, don't we? Number 5 is temperance. Now, I'm not going to read all that, but number 6 I thought was really stupid. Air. Duh. Well, yeah, we're going to need air. Number 7 is rest. And number 8, are you ready? Religion. Trust in God. Yeah. You might want, now see, they got it backwards. You know, it's seek first the kingdom, not seek eighth the kingdom, right? So we know that God's number 1, and if they had that right, they could be healthy. I mean, how long has it been since you've been to the doctor for anything? Right, long time. And, wow, Brittany has a small ear, or you do, one of the two. My goodness. So, if you remember, several weeks ago, before we had our onslaught of guests, I said I was going to preach a little series on love, and I started with loving God and why that's important. The second one is tonight, and that is love your neighbor as yourself. And boy, is that getting tougher. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So I'm just going to read this. Matthew 22, 34 through 38 says this. But when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, I like this, one version says, an expert in the law. Now, isn't that hilarious? An expert in the law is telling the word what the word says. And I just thought, now that's hilarious. Asked him a question, testing him. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord with all your God, love your Lord, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. That's the most important commandment. Someone said to me not long ago, when they were talking to me, they said, well, how do you do that? I go, well, how do you love anybody else? Spend time with them. And I said, you know, that commandment that says keep the Sabbath holy? Well, that's where you start. Go to church. That might be the first place. And of course, you know, the eyes kind of, oh, okay, I knew you were going to say that. And I said, you know, when you obey him, do you realize you make him happy? Don't your kids, when they do what you said, doesn't it make you happy? Oh, this must be a bad message because they do not like this. No, it's the most important commandment is to listen to his words. Love God. Second one is love your neighbor as yourself. So when he said keep the Sabbath holy, it might be a good thing to do. That would show God you love him. So how about this? Mark 16, 15 through 18 says, and he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. The one who has believed and been baptized will be saved. The one who has not believed will be condemned. These signs will accompany those who believe. In my name, they will cast out demons. You know that's supposed to be normal? They will speak with new tongues. Another normal thing, according to Jesus. They'll pick up serpents. They'll drink any deadly poison, and it will not harm them. They will lay hands on the sick, and they will recover. Another normal thing. So why is that not practiced all the time? We'll get that on another day. Simply put, do what he asked you to do. Go tell people about God. By obeying God, you show them that you love them. It's that simple. But tonight, I'm going to preach the end of that verse. And we'll read it again. It says in Matthew 22, 34 through 40, but when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question, testing him, saying, Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Upon these two commandments hang the whole law and the prophets. Do you notice it says it's a commandment? It's not optional. Somebody said, I just don't like that guy. This was up in Chicago. One of the guys playing golf with us. He goes, yeah, I just never liked that guy. I go, yeah, you got no choice. What are you talking about? Now, of course, they're not believers, so I have to explain, first, okay, let's start with the building blocks. But I do, so you tell them, I said, well, according to God, you have to love him. Why do I have to? I said, because he loved you. He said, while you were yet enemies, he died for you. So he's not asking you to, he's telling you to. Now, unfortunately, now in the world, people hear, love your neighbor as yourself, and all they get is love yourself. And oh man, there's a whole lot of that. I got to tell you, I was dying. And you know what? When I tell this story, I'm pretty certain at one time in my life, I did it too. But all these guys in the gym, they got their getting their pump on, and you see the guys, they turn, they're in the mirror just going. And they walk back and forth, and I mean, they're staring. And I am sitting across the gym. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so good. And I went over to say, if you break up with yourself, you'll probably, no, I'm kidding you. I'm pretty sure at one time or another, because, my old buddy Jimmy Ryan says, so you don't think we did that? And I go, stop it. I'm sure we did, but, So no, they think it's love yourself. It's not. It's love your neighbor as yourself. And, forgiveness, they got all these shows on TV now. And all these shows, I mean, they make me, I'm sorry, I can't watch it. When I hear it, I just go, oh. And it's these shows about and I'm sure they're nice people, but the housewives. And these other shows where everybody is arguing and fighting. And they're backstabbing. And they're talking about each other. And they say they don't like them. Wow, that is 100 miles from God. How do you do that? That's not what we're supposed to be teaching our young, but you can't understand why the new generation, the young generation coming up, is all about, backstabbing and talking about people. Because that's what they see on TV. The funny thing about it, forgiveness is the whole basis for salvation. I had a discussion with a family member, and they were upset. They said, I'm sorry, that person, this is wrong and it's inexcusable. And I don't think I'll ever forgive him. I said, you're a believer, right? Yeah. You have to. Oh boy. I said, he says, if you won't forgive, neither can he forgive you. And you can't even get a prayer answered. So I'm going to start there. If you've been praying and nothing's happening, take a look. Maybe you start there. See, Dave's giving Bible 101 today. That's pretty much all I got anyway. 1 Corinthians 13:13 says, but now faith, hope, and love remain, these three. But the greatest of these is love. Yeah, gonna need love. I remember when, I was telling Pastor this, he has always talked about how he's prayed and said, Lord, who will be in office that will turn their back on Israel? Now, this verse is the one that I have been praying about because I just couldn't fathom it. But I'm going to read this. This is Matthew 24, and this is where Jesus is talking about the end, what's going to happen and what's coming. So we'll start with verse 4 says, see to it that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Christ, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. These things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All of these are the beginning of birth pangs. Then they will deliver you over to be persecuted and killed. You'll be hated by all nations because of my name. And at that time, many will fall away and betray and hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and mislead many. Because of the multiplication of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who perseveres to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. And what I want to focus on is this. He says, most people's love will grow cold. He means toward others, but also towards God. You know, if you read that verse, I wrote it down here at the end. Revelation 16:10 says, "And the fifth angel poured out his bowl on the throne of the beast, and its kingdom was plunged into darkness, and men began to gnaw their tongues in anguish and curse the God of heaven for their pains and sores, yet they did not repent of their deeds." Boy, you have total anger and hatred when you won't repent and you won't forgive and you don't love. If that ever creeps up in you and you ever get in a disagreement and you know maybe you're partially wrong and you can't say, "Hey, look, man, I'm sorry," you better check yourself. Angela has to do it all the time to me. Now, the truth is, that is the case. If you feel that rise up in you and it's tough, man, you better change that. You better get on it right away. You know, he says most people's love will grow cold. Most. That just leaves less than 50%, right? Now, I'm not brilliant, but I can figure that out. So you're going to have to watch that. And I don't know if you notice this. It seems like there's days I can feel this. I can go out somewhere and it feels like there's a pressure, like there's an anger or just, people are just mad. It doesn't seem like there's many smiling. And I've told this story a million times, but I'll say it again. Cole always says, "Gosh, Dad, you talk to everybody." And I said, yeah, if I can just get them to smile, I can change their day. You know, you can change the course of their day by having a little fun, by complimenting or encouraging someone. Everybody gets up on the wrong side of the bed. I love when I asked Pastor this. I don't know if you remember this way, way back. I said, "What do you do when you get up on the wrong side of the bed?" He goes, "Go back to bed." I was like, that's a good idea. Some days I want to stay in there all day. I'm like, But, the truth is, you have to try. But, I said this to Cole. I go, dude, if I never talk to somebody, how do I get them to draw near to me so I can witness to them? And if I'm an angry cuss, well, certainly they're not going to come over and go, "Oh, I want what you got." Right? So you got to try to get them to come near you and come to you. So you got to be kind. You got to love people. It's not that difficult. Now, there are days, oh boy, and they seem to be increasing. I told Pastor today that I had a situation, and it just seems like it's been coming and coming and coming. I'm pretty certain that a lot of people in this church have dealt with this because of Pastor's preaching, what he said. And I got to where I slid back from my desk, and I was sitting in my chair, and I was like this, and I leaned over and I went, "Lord, when will this stop or let up?" I mean, it was bizarre. But I got to tell you, somehow I knew, because I was praying last night before I went to bed. I had a situation with a customer, and I just said, "Lord, I don't have an answer for this." Well, and I'll be honest, I messed up. I sized, and this is totally out of my message, but I'm just telling you, I sized these pumps for them, and they have to be in a range of -10 degrees to 300 degrees. That's a big range. We have a special pump for that. I asked a question of one of the applications engineers, and he says, "I think that'll work." And then this guy called me. I priced him. He called me, said, "Hey, this is going on a major system." And he said, "There's 10 pumps on this." He goes, "So you saying we can run this range?" And I went, "Well, so you're actually going to hit -4 and 300? Normally people give you a range, but it's the exception, not the norm. They will never hit that." He said, "No, we're running there." And I went, "Oh boy." He's already got them. He's already got them on the skids installed. And they're getting ready to test them. So, I had to sit back and say, I assumed, and I should have asked you. This is on me. It'll cost the company some money. Fortunately, my boss said, you know, buddy, everybody does one of these. Every so often. Well, thank God. All I needed was that backing, right? So even though God didn't give me the answer, I knew what product to put in. My boss was like, yeah, we'll work it out. Don't worry. That's what you need to hear. Now, if you had somebody that was miserable and wanted to scream at you or say, yeah, you know, we're going to write this down and we're going to put it in your file and, you know, one of those kind of things, you'd go, okay, but I didn't have that. That's where God comes in. You know, and He is so good to us, and it's very easy to walk with Him when you find that out. So you can see that more people have become angry, and they're, you know, here's what I see. Do you know these people that when they meet you or they talk to you, they're just looking for the faults. They don't look for the good in people. I'm not lying, man. They're like, oh, you know, I don't like that guy. Do you see his tooth? It's kind of crooked. And you're like, what? Yeah, I mean, you know, they come up with something. No, you know what? Look for the good. This is how you stay loving. You know, they could be 90% mean and nasty, but I promise you, there's something in there that's good. Pastor calls me silver lining guy. I do. I look for the good. And I can find that little piece that I can hang on to. I do it with Zach. It's hard, but I do it. So going back to verse 12, like I said, I thought, how would I have a problem with that? I like people generally. I mean, I do. I'm always talking and I love people. Well, guess what? I didn't know how nasty the enemy was. And it's gotten tougher. And it is a challenge. So I'm telling you this so you can keep that love, because we are going to be the reason that others, when they stand there and they're so angry and they hate life and they hate people and you don't, that's going to draw people to you and give you an opportunity to witness. You know, a few weeks back, I went to the airport and I walked in, got through the TSA line, and it was an early flight. I was up at 3:30. You know, 50 minutes to load up, to shower, get ready. It's 55 minutes to the airport. I think the flight was at like 7 a.m., and I was tired already. And I walked up, and the Starbucks line was like a mile long. And I'm standing in it, and I'm like, oh, no, I didn't put my out of office memo. So I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, I need to go do that before East Coast gets to work, right? So I'm looking, and I look back, and I don't know why this happened. This woman must have been watching me. And so I went like this. I went, ah. So I got out of line. I sat down. I pulled up my computer, and she walks over. She goes, sir, do you want a coffee? And I went, oh, wow. I said, I would love one. I go, hey, let me buy. She goes, nope, I got it. And she went and bought me a coffee as I did this. And man, it changed my morning. It was awesome. I got my coffee. I woke up. Now I could start talking people's ears off. Yes, that was the beauty. She didn't know that, but it was something so simple, but so sweet. When you show kindness to someone, you're showing love. When you show love or you show kindness, you're showing them God. You know, Jay told me this story, and I thought this was cool. He said Kip would always call him. And Kip would go, hey, you want to go to church? Want to go? And he'd finally get Jay on a day, kind of like me. Jay said, you know, our lives kind of parallel in how we got to God. We both dodged for a long time. And then finally, I guess Kip called him and said, I will come and get you. And Jay said, I didn't live close. Kip got in the car and he drove all the way, and not, by the way, on the way to church, right? Oh, he did? Okay, well, you just ruined the story. No, the truth is, he still went and got you, right? And he took him down to church, and now those two guys are both deacons in this church. If Kip never showed that love and never said, I'm going to get you, Jay would be lost as I was, right? That's showing God's love. Proverbs 16:24 says, gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Man, some nice words, that'll change your morning. My wife, and of course this is sarcastic, but she gets up on a Saturday morning, comes to the coffee pot, and you got to see her. It's really not pretty. And her hair is like, kind of like a bird's nest. And she comes walking in like this. She goes, you make me a coffee? I'm like, you look beautiful today. My hair can't get messed up, so I can tease her about that, right? No, she's beautiful every day. But like I said to Cole, speaking uplifting words like those are always good, right? They make people happy. Finally, Luke 6:31 says this, treat people the same way you want them to treat you. It's that simple. Say some nice things to somebody. Encourage them. Love on them. Smile. It will help keep you loving. And as you do that, the love of God just shows right through you, and that's how we'll get more people. So by doing these things, you and I will fulfill the second commandment. And that's the second most important. Amen?